What's up? What's happening? What's popping? What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another great episode of Simone with the Sports. I'm Simone, bringing you guys daily sports talk. So if you're new here, if you're old here, you haven't already subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you stop what you're doing, leave a comment, subscribe, keep rocking with me. Also, make sure you check out the many links down below. The first link is to buy me a coffee to help fuel this channel that you love so much. The second link is to shop the official Simone with the Sports merch collection. Get you the classic tee, the wavy tee that I'm rocking right now, and the fly or die crew neck for all my Birds fans. And lastly, guys, turn your notification bells on because you already know the videos are coming like boom, 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 boom. And you don't want to miss a single video or a single live stream, especially since we're so close to the playoffs. It's about, most teams have about 9 games, 8, 9 or 10 games left until the final seeding, until we jump right into the playoffs, all the madness. But guys, we got a lot to dive into today. So let's go ahead and get right in it and get into the belly of the beast of the East. So, y'all like that? Let's talk about the standings currently. I know it's some games tonight, but this is Thursday morning, March 24th. Let's talk about the standings. Right now, the Miami Heat, who we're going to get into, them. They are still the number 1 seed, barely, at 47-26. The 76ers, who were the 4th seed going into their game last night, are now 45-27 at the 2 seed. The Bucks are 45-27 at 3. The Celtics are 46-28 at 4. The Bulls are 42-30 at 5. The Cavs are 41-31 at 6. The Raptors 40-32 at 7. And the Nets 38-35 at 8. And like I said, there's only a few games left to be played. So it's crunch time, baby, trying to lock in seeding. And, you know, we're starting to really see a playoff picture. Kind of, because we're still neck and neck with a lot of teams. But let's start off by talking about the Miami Heat. There's a couple of teams we're going to get into today, but let's start with the Miami Heat since for right now, they're the number 1 seed. The Miami Heat, y'all, they are falling apart, and now is not the time of the season to be losing your momentum. They've had back-to-back just terrible losses. Their loss to the 76ers with Joel Embiid out and James Harden out was terrible for them. They should have manhandled us, but instead they struggled and ended up losing the game. Rewind to last night. They played the Warriors without Draymond Green, without Steph Curry, and without Klay Thompson. And they still lost. The Heat are falling apart right now, and they're really starting to crumble in the 4th quarter. Right now, they're 23rd in the league in 4th quarter offense, which is really surprising because they built their brand like in the bubble and everything about being clutch and all that. And the 4th quarter is where you're supposed to be clutch. And that's where they're really falling apart. And that's surprising to me too, because they have so many players that's supposed to be late, like shot creators, Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry. You would think the 4th quarter is where they would thrive, but that's really where, you know, threads are starting to fall apart. Or I guess you could say the Heat are cooling off in the 4th quarter. But y'all, last night during the Warriors, they got in a fight on the bench. They even had to push the coach, Spoelstra, back. He even had to get held back by somebody. Jimmy Butler, it was a lot of chatter on the bench, fighting pretty much. They went to, not fist fighting, but just a lot of verbal fighting. It was reported that they left the locker room like 40 minutes after the game, which is like 3 times. They said that they usually like leave the locker room in about 10 minutes or about 12 minutes, but it took them almost 40 minutes to leave the locker room last night. So this is not the time for the Heat to really be falling apart. Like, this is the time where you really want to be building your momentum heading into the playoffs. So that is very concerning, and their number 1 seed cushion is really slipping away. So currently right now, the Heat hold the tiebreaker over the Bucks and Philly because they have a better conference record. But Boston owns the tiebreaker versus the Heat. Plus, they still have a game against the Heat. So Boston has the most leverage if they end up having a tie record with the Heat, because they own the tiebreaker and they still have one more game against the Heat. But in the event that Philly or the Bucks tie with the Heat will have the tiebreaker for having the better conference record. But like I said, they're really struggling. Up next, they have the Nets. the Bulls, the Raptors, the Hornets, and the Hawks. So the Heat have a very tough schedule moving forward. The Nets, who we're going to get into, will have Kyrie Irving, of course, for that game, because that game will be at Miami. The Bulls are a team who are looking to really scrape up some wins to secure their seed, because they're neck and neck with the Cavs, the Raptors, with the Cavs and Raptors. And then we know the Raptors are going to want to move ahead of the Nets and try to move out of that 7th seed. They're right there with the Cavs and Bulls. So that's not going to be an easy game for the Heat. The Hornets are down there at number 9. The Hornets are going to be a scrappy team that's going to be trying to take down the Heat as well, because they're going to be wanting to move up to 8, move up to 7, and secure their number 9 seed over the Hawks. And the Hawks currently right now are number 10. And that's going to be another tough game for the Heat, because the Hawks are going to be trying to, pretty much right now, the Hawks are pretty much locked in at the 10th seed. They have a pretty good cushion over the Knicks, who are the 11th seed. But the Hawks are going to want to be trying to move up to 9, 8, and they're still kind of in striking distance if they go on a run in these last 9 games. Basically, it's going to be a tough road for the Heat. Very, very tough road for the Heat. But let's move on to the number 2 seed, which is our Philadelphia 76ers. So the 76ers, we beat the Lakers last night. Great. But at the same time, there was no LeBron James. And really, we should have dominated more than we did. Still a great win, but it's not like, ooh, we needed that win. Because like I said, 9 games left. But they didn't have LeBron James. They didn't have Anthony Davis. I mean, it was a win we were supposed to get. But a great win nonetheless. Tobias Harris had a great night last night, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He was really carrying the team when, Joel and James, that tandem, wasn't in the game. Tobias, it's great that Tobias had such a great night last night, because that means he could be finding his stride really right now before we hit the playoffs, which is going to be huge. We need Tobias to show up big in the playoffs, so it's good that he's getting his momentum right now. Also, guys, over the last, and of course, Joel had a double-double. He had 30 and 10 last night. We know that. It's a double-double king. But, guys, over the last week, Joel Embiid is averaging 27 points and 10 rebounds. And James Harden is averaging 21 points and 9 assists. So, Joel and James have been really doing well over this past week. And like I said, Tobias came into his own last night. Of course, TYRESE has been playing great. We really need them to continue that and to continue that momentum over these next 9 games and into the playoffs, because things aren't really easy for the Sixers either. So we have the Clippers, the Suns, and Bucks. That's our next order of games. We play the Clippers tomorrow. Then we have the Suns and Bucks. Those are going to be really tough games. The Bucks, of course, great team right now in the East. They've been playing really well. They dropped the game like 2 days ago without Giannis, but they've been playing really well. We know the Bucks are going to be wanting to, of course, keep their seeding and raise their seeding. The Suns just playing amazing right now over there in the West. We know the Suns are going to be a really, 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 really tough game. Really good team. So that's going to be tough. The Clippers that's what we play next. The Clippers are going to definitely play tough. They've been playing tough all season. Of course, they're still without Kawhi and still without Paul George. But like I said, their others have been playing really good. And the Clippers is not just going to be a game we'll be able to just go in, walk them down, and pull out. The Clippers are definitely going to be a tough team. But I do think we should be able to beat the Clippers. The Suns and Bucks is going to be really tough. Then we have the Pistons, the Hornets, the Cavs, the Pacers, the Raptors, the Pacers, and the Pistons. Now, that Pistons game after the Bucks should be an easier game, but the Pistons have been really randomly scrappy. So none of these games are necessarily going to be like a game I'm going to be like, oh, that's a lot. The interesting thing to note, the Hornets and the Cavs are back-to-back, so we will be playing the Cavs after just playing the Hornets. So that will be interesting. Will James and Joel play in that game against the Cavs? We're really getting down the stretch, and like I said, we really want to lock up our seeding, but also we want them to be healthy for the playoffs, so it's really a hard balance. So that's a big question mark. The Cavs are a team we know we can beat, but I don't know if we're going to be resting players on that back-to-back from the Hornets. Now, the Hornets is definitely going to be a tough, scrappy game because, like I said, the Hornets right now are the number 9 seed, and they are trying to avoid falling down to number 10. The Hawks are number 10, so the Hornets are definitely going to be playing hard and playing scrappy. So that's definitely not a game we're just going to be able to go in and, walk them down. So then we have the Pacers and the Raptors. We know the Raptors have a vendetta against us still. They just beat us without Fred VanVleet the other night. So we know the Raptors is not going to be an easy game. Our last 2 games, Pacers and Pistons. The Pacers and Pistons are back-to-back, but that will be our final games of the season, so we will know whether or not we need to play James and Joel against the Pistons. If we have secured a spot, like if nothing can change, then we already know we won't be, be playing. Like if we already know we can't go up or down in our seeding when it gets to our final game, of course we will rest Joel and James. But if we need to beat the Pistons to jump up a spot or to secure a spot, we will definitely be playing Joel and James and hopefully in that last game. But our last 9 games, like I said, the toughest teams, just at face value, Clippers, Suns, Bucks, Raptors. So 4 and Cavs. I mean, I'm going to add the Cavs. We've been doing pretty well against the Cavs, but the Cavs are still definitely a team that could take us down. So we really have 5 tough games. And then we have Pistons, Pacers, Pistons as those 4. We have the Pistons and Pacers twice as 4 easier games. So the Sixers, I definitely think are in a good spot right now. Moving on, let's talk a little bit about the Boston Celtics. Really not that much to talk about them. I told you they have the tiebreaker over. The Heat if they do end up in a scenario where they're tied with the Heat for the number 1 seed, and they still have the Heat left to play. But the Celtics are playing really good right now. We know their defense has been playing really good, but y'all, their offense has been on a tear lately. They beat the Kings, the Nuggets, the Thunder, and the Jazz this past week by an average margin of 21.5 points. They are beating teams down. They're spanking these guys, okay? They're spanking these guys. So the Celtics really are the hottest team right now in the East, and they are really the scariest team, in my opinion, outside of the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks. The Boston Celtics are definitely on a tear and looking scary, and I really feel like they're going to end up, if not the Sixers or the Bucks, I feel like, I don't think the Heat are going to end with the number 1 seed. I don't. Just the way they've been playing and the way the Celtics are gaining momentum, the Sixers are gaining momentum, and the Bucks, I don't think the Heat are going to end with the number 1 seed. I feel like they might fall even as far as 4, the way things shaked out. I think the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Celtics are going to be the top 3 teams. But lastly, let's talk about the number 8 seed right now, the Brooklyn Nets. So right now, the Brooklyn Nets are the number 8 seed, and they only have a 1-game advantage over the Hornets, and they only have a 2-game advantage over the Hawks. So they're in the number 8 seed, but they are still in a dangerous position of falling as far down as 10. So they lost last night to a Ja Morantless Grizzlies team. The Grizzlies was turned up, piped up. Kyrie and KD had an amazing game. They were without Seth Curry, and they were without Goran Dragic. We know they definitely missed Seth Curry's shooting. Seth has been playing extremely well since he's been with the Nets. He's always been playing well, but he's really been playing well with the Nets. So they definitely missed him. They are playing the Heat next. They're playing the Heat on Saturday, and the coach said that they are expected to have, Steve Nash said they're expected to have Curry and Dragic back for that game, and we know the Nets will need them. Next up, the Nets have the Heat, the Hornets, the Pistons, the Bucks, the Hawks, the Rockets, the Knicks, the Cavs, and the Pacers. So they will be getting Kyrie Irving back full-time on Sunday. Kyrie Irving will be making his home debut on Sunday against the Hornets. Like I said, a game that the Nets will definitely need to win because, like I said, they only have a 1-game advantage over the Hornets, who are number 9, and only a 2-game advantage over the Hawks. So the Nets are getting Kyrie Irving back at the perfect time for them because they're playing the Heat on the road, so Kyrie Irving will be able to play. But then they're coming back home to play the Hornets. They play the Bucks at home as well, so those are 2 games where they would definitely. Be wanting to have Kyrie Irving being able to play at home, and they're getting Kyrie Irving back at the perfect time for them because, like I said, they only have a 1-2 game cushion over the number 9 seed, the number 10 seed, and the Hornets and the Hawks. So they definitely want to stay out of that 9-10 dangerous play-in spot. Even though the 7-8 is a play-in spot as well, you get 2 chances in that spot. So, like I said, they have the Heat, Hornets, Pistons, Bucks, Hawks, Rockets, Knicks, Cavs, and Pacers. The only really easier games are the Rockets, Knicks, Pacers, and Pistons. So again, they have like that balance of their last 9 games, including like 4 easier games and 5 tough games. But guys, this is a lot. Like I said, 9 games left. Woo-wee. And it's still very tight from the number 1 seed to the number 4 seed. It is still extremely, extremely, extremely close. And even really kind of with the Bulls, I mean, the Bulls are 3 games behind. That's a lot of games when it's only 9 games left. It's really, like I said, the Heat, the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Celtics that's going to shake out those top 4 seeds. And then the bottom, though, the bottom of the league still has a lot to figure out. Like I said, the Nets are only 2 games behind the Raptors for the number 7 seed. The Raptors are only 1 game behind the Cavs for the number 6 seed. So it's very tough when it gets at the bottom, too. And like I said, the Nets, the Hornets, the Hawks are all right there in that 8, 9, 10 seed spot. But y'all, it's getting juicy. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know who your power rankings are right now in the NBA overall. I know I really be focusing on the East, but just in the NBA overall, let me know what your power rankings are. I really think the top teams right now are definitely the Celtics and the Suns. If I had to pick one from the East and the West, the way the Suns have just been playing without Chris Paul, time and time again without D-Book, just the way they've been stepping up and just been balling out, the Suns are definitely scary. Then of course what the Celtics are doing, not only defensively, but offensively, just tearing them teams up, just tearing them up. But y'all, make sure you like this video, leave a comment, subscribe, keep rocking with me. Check out the links down below. Buy me the coffee, shout out the official SymoneWithTheSports merch collection, and turn your notification bells on. And until I talk to you guys next time,